Raikama caught the bowl in one hand. She held it on her palm, and a glow pooled within it, shadowy snakes crawling over the brim and wrapping themselves around my neck. Muscle by muscle, I stiffened, immobilized by the snake squeezing me tighter and tighter, until not even a wheeze could escape my lips. "Stop!" I gasped. "You wish to speak?" My stepmother's yellow eyes glowed. "Then be wary of what you say, for so long as this bowl rests on your head, with every sound that passes your lips, one of your brothers shall die. As of now, your past is no more. You will neither speak nor write of it. No one shall know you." She set the bowl upon my head. As the wooden sides fell over my eyes and nose, I opened my mouth to scream, but her curse arrived faster than my voice, and a world of blackness folded upon me. That's a quote from Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is YA Book Chat, and I'm your host, Leah Stuhler.
Hey guys, my name's Abby, and I co-host the Book Life podcast with my best friend Mo. We cover fantasy, sci-fi, and historical fiction books, and talk book-related topics like our favorite character types, world building, and books versus their movies. New episodes drop every Monday on your favorite platform. Now, back to your show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of YA Book Chat. As always, thank you so much for being here and continuing to listen to my episodes. Thank you, of course, to all of my Patreon members, two of which are actually guests with me today. They are brand new Patreon members, and I'm very excited to have them here. We are going to be covering the book Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and I actually had the privilege of getting to meet Elizabeth Lim this past November when I went to Y'all Fest in Charleston. So that was really cool. And now I'm going to review her book. So today my guests are Abby and Mo from the Book Life podcast. They've been here with me before, and I'm always happy to have them back. Welcome back, guys.
Hi. I actually think this is my first time. I'm pretty sure Abby's your reoccurring book mom. I'm pretty sure this is my first time I get to hang out with you on your episode versus one of our episodes.
We did one together, but maybe was it for my Patreon? I thought we did one.
I'm the one who's done the multiple episodes with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of your episode then. Okay, well, this time. Okay, then welcome, Mo.
Or we could have been on someone else's podcast. We could have been on Bethany's. Who knows? We are just all over the place.
Yeah, seriously, I cannot keep track anymore. It's like we're just podcast buddies everywhere, and we're all on each other's podcasts, and it's great. It's fun.
It's awesome.
Well, I'm glad you're both here. Why don't you guys tell everybody a little bit about your podcast?
Our podcast is the Book Life podcast. We are hosted on every kind of place, wherever you can find us. We talk about primarily, fantasy, sci-fi, historical fiction, kind of whatever we have read together and whatever floats our boat. And sometimes we read really random things and books that we hate, and then we have discussed those. But we love to do listicles. We love to do, Abby, what else do we like to do? Book reviews, lists, all sorts of stuff. We just have fun, and we have fun together.
Mm-hmm. That's good. It is a very fun podcast. So if you guys haven't listened to it, you should go ahead and check them out too. And of course, I will put a link to it in the show notes for today's episode. All right. Well, I'm excited to dig into this book. So funny story first, when I went to Y'all Fest and I met Elizabeth Lim, I actually hadn't even read any of her books yet. But I got in her line to meet her to get an autograph because I was actually doing it for a friend of mine who couldn't go there. And I was like, oh, well, I can get some author signatures for you. So I just had these cards, note cards that I brought for them to sign. So I was like, do I say, you never know what to say, right? So I stupidly was like, I haven't actually read your books yet, but if you could sign this for a friend of mine, but I bought your book and I'm totally going to read it now. She was like, okay. I don't know. It's weird. It was just awkward. I shouldn't have said anything, but it's fine. Still, I also feel like it's awkward just going up to them and being, here, sign this. It's not for me. It's for a friend. You know what I mean? If you hand them a note card and not a book, that says something. You know what I mean? Like, does this person read my books? Why am I signing a note card? I don't know. So I felt like I had to say something.
Question.
Oh,
like,
man.
was this a last minute thing where you came and you didn't happen to have any books with you, or?
Oh, wait, no, I got a plan for you. So next time you do that, you should order like the order stickers, and they have like a book plate sticker. You're like, hi, these are my personal book plates. Have them with your podcast on there, like courtesy of YA Chat. I got you a signature. You better love me. And then you give it to them.
I like that. That's a really good idea. What's funny, so I did notice afterwards, I was in line for a different author and I saw somebody with like a whole slew of book plates, the sticker book plates that the bookstore that sponsors Y'all Fest had, like their logo was on it. And I was like, I didn't even know that they had those. Now I know. So I could also do that. But putting my logo on it would be even better, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Marketing strategies with Mo.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to talk about this book, Six Crimson Cranes. And in case this is your first time listening to the podcast, I like to do the first 15-ish minutes spoiler free in case you have not read the book yet. And then you have a chance to hear what it's about and decide if you'd like to read it. And then we will do a spoiler section and I will give you a warning before we do that. All right. So just a quick plot overview first. So this is actually a retelling of the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale called The Wild Swans, which also goes by a couple other names and different versions of it, different translations, which I actually didn't realize until I started reading it. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But, you know, sometimes it happens. So in Hans Christian Andersen's story, it's a little bit different. There is a king who is widowed and he has 12 children, 11 boys, so 11 princes, and then one daughter who is a princess. And then he gets remarried, but he marries this queen who is actually a witch. And out of spite, the queen turns the stepsons into swans who can temporarily become human at night. And then she forces them to fly away. And then their sister, when she turns 15, the queen tries to like put a spell on her. But the girl she's like too good. Her goodness is too much. So she's too strong. So the queen, evil, the witch, can't put a spell on her. So instead she banishes her, but she makes her unrecognizable by dirtying her face. And then, which we're going to come back to that in our discussion, the dirtying the face and how that makes her unrecognizable. Yeah, I definitely have issues with that one. But then the princess finds her brothers, and then they take her to a foreign land where she is safe and out of reach of her evil evil stepmother. And then she meets the queen of the fairies, who gathers stinging nettles out of graveyards. And they tell her that she has to knit the nettles into shirts for her brothers. So she knits them into shirts, and then she eventually gets the shirts on her brothers, and then her brothers are transformed back. Except like the really funny part is that she couldn't finish like one of the sweaters completely. She hadn't finished it completely. It was missing an arm. So her brother puts it on, but he's got like one arm and one wing, which I found hilarious.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops. For effort or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's more to that, to the fairy tale. But those are like the main parts that we really need to hit about it. So that's the original Hans Christian Andersen version. And then this one is a little bit different. There are less siblings. There are 12 in the Hans Christian Andersen, but there are 7 children in this one. And what I really love about this version too, is it's got like a Japanese spin on it, which I thought was really cool. So let me read the book jacket and give you guys the overview for Six Crimson Cranes now. And I am probably going to butcher these names, so forgive me. I don't know how to say this stuff. So here we go. Shiori'anma, the only princess of Kiata, has a secret. Forbidden magic runs through her veins. Normally, she conceals it well, but on the morning of her betrothal ceremony, Shiori loses control. At first, her mistake seems like a stroke of luck, forestalling the wedding she never wanted, but it also catches the attentions of Raikama, her stepmother. A sorceress in her own right, Raikama banishes the young princess, turning her brothers into cranes. She warns Shiori that she must speak of it to no one, for with every word that escapes her lips, one of her brothers will die. Penniless, voiceless, and alone, Shiori searches for her brothers and uncovers a dark conspiracy to seize the throne. Only Shiori can set the kingdom to right. But to do so, she must place her trust in a paper bird, a mercurial dragon, and the very boy she fought so hard not to marry. And she must embrace the magic she's been taught all her life to forswear, no matter the cost. I did forget to leave out in the original Hans Christian Andersen, she also can't speak. It's a little bit different how it happens, but that happens in that one too. All right, so there's our storyline. There's our background fairy tale, and then the story of this one. So I want to know what you guys thought about this book. Whichever one of you wants to go first.
I loved it. I pre-ordered it because this is my third Elizabeth Lim book, and I adore her writing style. And so I saw that she was coming out with this one and went, mine, thanks. Just immediately pre-ordered it. So I loved this book so much. I actually ordered the UK version too.
Ooh.
And I got a sticker plate with her autograph and put it in that one. And that's in like my special section of pretty books I don't touch.
Oh yeah, we all have one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But I adore her writing style. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
It takes an aesthetic and puts it on the page for me. And that's exactly how I want every author to write, honestly.
I do love when that happens as well. Like, this is definitely one of the most beautifully written stories. And it's not just because it's from a fairy tale. It's just the way that she writes. Like, it's so gorgeous. Like, I can picture everything. Her words just flow together so nicely. And the story as a whole too is just really beautiful because it just, really emphasizes on familial bonds and how strong they can be. And so, yeah, just her writing is gorgeous. Like this was, like I just said, this was the first one of hers that I've read, but it did make me want to go back and read her other books as well.
I feel the need to tell you that this is the best of the three of hers that I have read.
Okay.
I read her first duology, which was Blood of the Stars. So it's Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. I really enjoyed those books. However, it's clear to me from the writing in this one that she is improving as an author. I think the pacing of Spin the Dawn is off. It's not well paced out. And that's kind of disappointing. The reason I stuck with her though is because of the beautiful writing, because the beautiful writing is still in the Blood of the Stars duology, but Six Crimson Cranes is definitely better than that duology.
That's good to know. So I've only read this book as well. For me, this is a very solid YA novel. Like, this is truly written for a young adult audience. And I appreciate that. I appreciate a good YA novel because they're usually fast paced, easy to keep up with, not too anything, just light, easy, and fun. And because of that, the thing that I'm such a big, the books that I love the most have the best world building. They have to have really good lore, or that's fantasy, or if I'm in sci-fi, really going into the tech, going into nuances. For me to have made this like, oh my gosh, for Abby, this was one of her favorite books she read the last year. For me, it was good, but it wasn't, oh my God, gush about it great. Just because I didn't have enough of the nuances of the magic explored. And I'm hoping the second book is going to really deliver on that. And I love how I'm a sucker right now for retelling, fairy tale retelling. So that hits one of my boxes. And I'm a sucker for anything non-European based. I really have been jiving with all of the African folklore fantasy that's been coming to the bookshelves, all the Asian folklore fantasy coming to bookshelves. And the fact that this is mixing a European story, the 12 Dancing Swans, right? Is that the right story?
The Wild Swans. Yep.
The Wild Swan story with Asian culture. Ooh, man, I am just like, this was a well done, like, really cool concept. And she delivered well on that. I appreciate it. So I don't know, for me, if I'm going to reread it, then that's a solid 5. Oh my gosh, amazing book. Don't know if I will reread, but I would offer it as a suggestion to people to read, but I will jump on that sequel when it comes out.
Oh, I'm definitely jumping on that baby as well. Like, it's going to be so, I'm really excited to see where the rest of this goes. And by the way, I told Abby and Mo this earlier before we started recording, but I had no idea that it was going to be more than one book, as per usual. Like, I just pick up these books and I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. You know what it is too? Part of the reason I get fooled is because of how long the books are, right? Like, I'm like 500 pages. Okay, it's got to be the whole thing, right? No, I still have not learned my lesson, and I probably never will. It's fine. I don't mind. More books to read. So,
I mean, you can tell an entire story in 500 pages.
You can.
But when you really want the aesthetic, why would you?
Exactly. Right. So it's fine. No, I'm excited. I agree with what you have both said. I also loved the Japanese culture of this book. I have really been getting into reading books with like an Asian background more lately, with the Asian culture. I'm not sure why, but that's just a pattern that I've noticed lately, but I really do enjoy them a lot, maybe because it's a culture that I don't really know as much about. And so I love being able to learn more about it and explore more about it. It could also be my obsession with some movies that are like Asian culturally based, that I love. And I'm like, ooh, that's so pretty. Or, that's so cool. I don't know, but I do love the background. And when she talks about, there's one part when 3 of the characters go to a certain spot and they're like having a picnic of sorts. And there's like, I don't remember if they were cherry blossom trees or a different type of tree, but I was picturing like cherry blossom trees, that are in Japan. And it's just so beautiful. And again, I just love how this story in general just talks about family, like the strong theme of family. And it had in it like how strong familial bonds can be, but it also has kind of like a warning in it about people can be deceiving and you really have to be careful, but they could be deceiving in like a way that they're trying to trick you, or in a way that they're being deceiving because they're trying to protect you. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to decipher which is which and figure it out. One other thought here is that I loved all the magical elements, and I loved the addition of our dragon to this story. Mm-hmm. I love dragons. I don't know what it is. I just really enjoy them, especially like sea creature dragons. So as you can imagine, I really enjoyed that Disney movie, which I can't even think of the name of it now.
Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yes, that one. Raya and the Last Dragon. I loved it.
Creatures.
No. Well, and this made me think of that movie because Raya turns into human form, can do that. And in this, the dragon in here can turn into human form too.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you passionate about writing or just love the arts? Tune in to the Poetry Podcast with A. Discover the latest trends in the industry, enjoy insightful book reviews, participate in Q&As, listen to captivating poetry readings, and get inspired by author interviews. We release episodes on the first 3 Thursdays of each month. Don't miss out. Come check us out at the Poetry Podcast with A.
You tell me there's a dragon in a book and I'll be like, hand it over. Like, that's something that gets me interested in a book immediately. There's a dragon. I don't care if it's like one chapter that the dragon's in. I want to read it.
Abby's a big dragon fan.
I was like, that sounds like Rage of Dragons. First chapter, there were dragons. And then I was like, Abby, where's the rest of the dragons? You're like, I just say there
would be a lot of dragons.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, though, book 2 is going to involve more than one dragon.
Oh, I hope so. I
hope so with that setup.
Yes, which we can talk about in just a little bit. All right. Anything else before we move into our spoiler section?
No, just a final. This was a really great book, and I do think a lot of people should read it because it was like you said, the writing. It is some of the best writing I've read in a long time, and that's significant. Yeah. So many other books to choose from, and not saying those authors aren't good writers, but this author was a top-notch, beautiful, sticking with you kind of writer.
Yes. Some people just have a way with words. Like, there's a blogger whose post I read, she doesn't post as often anymore, but every time I get a new post from her, like, I dive into it right away because the way that she phrases things and words things is just so beautiful. And I'm always like, how do you do that? Like, I'm always so impressed by it too, and I'm like, if I were to try and write about this same topic that you're writing about, I could totally write about the same topic, but it's going to come out completely different and nowhere near as beautiful as you do. And that's blog writing. And that's something that I do all the time and I've done for years, but it's like, I can't, some people just have that, and Elizabeth Lim, she's definitely just got that with this book. It's just so beautiful and pulls you in and speaks to you. And I was like, felt so peaceful reading this book too.
Yeah, I loved this book. I'm very excited to see what she comes out with once she's done with this duology. Because I'm just excited about her writing in general. She's an author that has become an auto buy for me, which is hilarious considering I didn't absolutely love her first book.
Well, let's go into the spoiler section now. So if you are listening and you have not yet read Six Crimson Cranes and you do not want any of this beautiful story spoiled for you, then this is the point where you would stop listening, you read the book, and then you come back and listen to the rest of the episode after. But if you have already read this book, or if you really just don't care about spoilers, then please continue listening to the rest of the episode. All right. So so Shiori goes through a lot in this story. And so I kind of wanted to talk about her quest and what she goes through. And she goes through all of this to help her brothers. And one thing that I found very interesting was that she has 7 brothers. Or 6 brothers, excuse me. It'd be good if I got the number right. 6.
Close enough.
I mean, it's not like the title of the book gives it away or anything.
Yeah.
So she has 6 brothers, and she talks about at the beginning of the book how she's only really close with 1 or 2 of them, and she's not as close with others of them, and some of them barely even bother with her very much, but yet they're still her brothers. And so when they are cursed, she still has this really strong bond. She's like, even though I'm not as close with this one or this one, I still need to save them. They're my brothers. And so I thought that was great. I really love that connection that she has with them. Let's talk about the Hans Christian Andersen versus this. Okay, so like I said earlier, in the Hans Christian Andersen version, and I'm laughing, I do love Hans Christian Andersen. So, but that must have been some pretty strong magic that stepmother queen witch had to just dirty to just dirty the princess's face and nobody recognized her. At least in this version, Raikama puts a bowl over Shiori's head that she can't get off.
kind of weird. Like, I'm wondering if there's some symbolism from Japanese mythology or culture that we don't know about that. Because I'm like, how would people not be like, oh, she been cursed. She got a bull stuck in her head. She doesn't take it off. And I'm like, is there something we're missing with? Because like, I found that so weird that people didn't try to take the bull off.
They did. There were a couple people who tried to take it off. When she was in the Tiani village, there were a couple who tried to take it off. And even maybe when she went to Khan's palace, I feel like somebody tried to take it off there too.
Mm-hmm. There were people that tried to take it off. Mm-hmm. And all the villagers, when she was there, were like, she's obviously cursed because the bull never comes off her head. Like, they thought she was cursed.
Right. I had to read it again
because that's what I missed. Because I kind of just missed that whole section.
It's all right. We'll help fill you in.
I appreciate it. No, I was right. It is significant to Japanese culture because it is part of a Japanese folktale about a maiden of noble birth who wears a bull on her head.
Oh. I thought it was. I remember some sort of folktale that had dealt with it.
Okay. All right. That's okay. That makes sense now. So I love that then. That's even better because she combined more than one tale and put them together, which is very interesting. Unless it's like its own version of this story of the wild swans.
Does not look.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, but it's nice to know that it has significance with it though. But I had to read it again a couple of times because I was like, okay, how is the bowl? Because the bowl goes over her eyes and her nose. So like the only thing that people can see is her mouth.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
It's like a really weird superhero mask.
It's so weird. But she can see perfectly clearly, like through the bowl. That's part of it so that she can see, but they can't see her. But I got confused a couple of times as I was reading this because there were a couple of points where Shiori is talking to Khan and she says like, it's like he was looking right into my eyes. And I'm like, but he can't see your eyes, right? Like the bowl is over your eyes and your nose.
He's probably just like guessing where her eyes are under the bowl.
Looking at the bowl. Oh, poor Shiori. But I'm telling you though, like I liked this version with the bowl over her head a lot better than just the like, I'm going to dirty your face up. Because again, it's got to be like some kind of really powerful, like glamour magic to just have dirt on somebody's face and you don't recognize them, especially a princess.
Well, hearing that made me wonder, like, okay, if you're a princess, you're usually like done up in really fancy clothes and probably a bunch of makeup and your hairstyle and everything, right? Mm-hmm. So dirtying her up, like her hair hasn't been washed in a couple days. She might have some dirt on her face. She doesn't have any makeup. She's not in nice clothes. Like you can do massive transformations of a person just by doing that, you know?
That is true. And if you don't know what the princess looks like, then you're not going to know who she is.
Right.
So, all right. Well, that's a little better.
I mean, I know it's a little bit of a stretch considering the text, but
we tried.
I still like the bowl better, but that's okay.
The bowl is definitely better.
Yes. So she runs away on her betrothal day. She goes after Kiki in the lake. And then she meets Sarayu, who can come out of the water into human form, but is also this really cool dragon. I have to be honest. Even though I know that there's like the whole love story with Tikan, and like I know this is coming, right? There were a few moments in this book where I was kind of like, does Sarayu have feelings for her? Like he can be human. Is this going to turn into a thing? Or like, could he turn her into a dragon? Like, does he, I just had some doubts for a few, not about her feelings for him, but I almost felt like there were a few moments where I wondered if he has feelings for her. Did you guys get that at all?
Yeah. I'm like, don't love triangle. Don't do it. We already have interest. Don't do it.
So we have a love interest we like. We don't need a triangle here. Thanks.
quite concerned about what happens in the next book around that whole aspect.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that she takes it in a different direction, and like the reason he's acting like he's jealous and likes her is actually because as a dragon, she's like part of his horde, or he's very possessive, and it's not like a romantic thing, it's just dragon nature. That I would prefer.
Plus, she has the dragon pearl. I mean, he gave it to her, but I don't know. So maybe that just connects them more and they have more of a connection because of that.
Yes.
And because
I'm
he
hoping.
saved her life.
I just don't want a love triangle.
Yeah, it is YA. That's like the one thing I gotta watch out in YA, that they like to throw in you like, would you like a love triangle? No, I actually wouldn't. You may put
It's
that
okay.
somewhere else.
Here, have one anyways.
Yes.
No love triangles.
Yeah. No, I don't like those. So I don't know. We'll see.
I love true love. Falling in love, I don't need a triangle to deal with.
Agreed.
I feel like if she tries to push a love triangle into the second book, I'm just gonna like completely ignore it unless there's like a genuine outright confession. I'm just gonna be like, no, there's no love triangle. I refuse to see it.
There's nothing happened. She's gonna go back to Takan and it'll be fine.
It's true love, dang it.
True love. And I could quote The Princess Bride right now, but I'll spare y'all. Okay, anyways.
Anyway.
Because that'll just put me down a rabbit hole that we don't need to go down. Okay, so she goes after her brothers when they get turned into the cranes. Well, then, because Raikama banishes her. So she ends up in Tiani village, which is like crazy far away. And she gets the cook, you know, she can't talk. So the cook calls her Lena, which I kind of like that name. But the cook calls her Lena, and she ends up like staying there, and she makes the soup, which attracts Takan's attention when he comes in. Okay. When he and the soldier, I forget his name right now, when they first came in to the restaurant there in Tiani village, and she was describing both of them, and they were talking about how the one who was called Takan was really like rough and gruff around the edges, and then his like right-hand man was really nice and soft and kind. And I was like, they're switched spots, aren't they? Because that's something that we see frequently, like in this type of story, or even in movies, you know, like to protect the prince or princess, they swap places with somebody else and pretend to be them. So I was like, oh no, that guy's totally Takan. It's not him, it's him. So I was very pleased to find out that was correct, because I didn't want Takan to be the mean guy. I wanted him to be the nice one.
Turn on, you're like, I know it's this one right here.
That's right.
Okay, so I love the royalty in disguise trope so much. It's like, man, you tell me that's in a book and I'm going to be like, ooh, tell me more. Tell me more.
Have you seen Aladdin? No, just kidding.
I was totally blindsided by it in this book, and I don't know why. I was so into the story and being like there in the present. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just like, oh, I shipped the nice soldier in Shiori. And then I found out later, obviously he's Takan, and I went, oh, that's why I was shipping them. Okay. I felt kind of dumb not connecting those dots sooner, but I was like, whoops.
Well, sometimes it's obvious and you can figure it out, and sometimes it's not. I've done that before too in other books where I've been like, oh, I totally should have figured that out. All the clues were there. Yep. Okay. So I love how Takan treats her right from the start. As soon as they meet in Tiani village, he's so nice and sweet, and he's like, leave her alone, this poor girl. Like, obviously there's a bowl on her head for some reason. We don't need to be mean just because she has a bowl on her head and she can't talk. Like, I can't even. Every time I'm picturing this, I'm like, I just think about like this poor girl walking around with this bowl that covers like 3/4 of her head. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It's just an image. It's an image. You can't get out. Oh man. All right. So she goes to Tiani village. She's there for a lot longer than she wants to be. The prince comes in, who she meets, and then she does end up finding her brothers and ends up with them. And then they have to go on this quest to get the Star Stroke in the middle of Dragon Kingdom. And then she goes back with her brothers, and then she disobeys her brothers and ends up at Takan's palace. So she goes through a lot, like a lot in this book. But I love that she's got Kiki with her the whole time, because I feel like this story would have been more difficult to tell if we didn't have Kiki. Because Kiki serves as like her friend who she can talk to, because since she already has her magic, she can like talk to Kiki in her mind, because she created Kiki, this little paper crane, which I think is so fun. And then Kiki is able to communicate with Shiori's brothers for her, which I think is so vital. Kiki communicating with Shiori's brothers is a very integral part of the story, because if we didn't have that, Shiori wouldn't be able to communicate everything to them that she needed. And she wouldn't have been able to get out of some of the situations that she got herself into either.
Yeah, without Kiki, this book would have either been way shorter or way longer.
Right.
But either way, Kiki made it happen.
I'll say Kiki was my favorite character. She was vital to the story.
She was. And she was so fun too. She just has like throughout the story too, she has like some of these like just fun little one-liners that you're like, oh, that's really funny. She just has these cute lines. And yeah, just being able to communicate with her brothers was a huge thing, because she can't talk to them. And you can only write in the sand with a stick for so long before you really get tired of it, you know? Plus, she can't really write that much either, because that was part of Rakima's curse as well. Like she can a little bit, but not about certain things. So it gets tricky. Speaking of Raikama, I like her you know what? Her actual real name is easier to say. January, which by the way, Lunar Chronicles. Her name was, I read that and I was like, stop it. Her name is January. Of course it is. That's for you, Bethany. I hope you're listening. Okay. So Raikama has the dragon pearl, but hers is different. Hers is like really dark, which we find out later in the story is because of her sister, but that's a whole other thing. So they have to make the Starstroke net in order to like throw it over her for her dragon pearl to come out. What I thought was funny is I love how it's so much more complicated in this story to gather that than in the original Hans Christian Andersen. Because in the Hans Christian Andersen, she meets a fairy and the fairy is like, oh, I just need to go to this graveyard. The nettles are right there for you in this graveyard. And so the fairy gets them, but then the princess can go to the graveyard and get the more nettles when she needs them to. And it's just like super easy. It's like, oh, it's just a graveyard. They're right there. But in this case, I loved it because they're on Mount Ryuna in the Taijin Sea, which is, of course, in the middle of Dragon Kingdom. And so it's guarded by the dragons and the Dragon King. And then the Starstroke, it's not just like regular little nettles. It's like these things that burn your hands and like burn your skin off. And then they glow, which makes it all the more complicated because then she has to hide it. Like this poor girl has nothing easy, you know? And then we have she does have the bag though, that she can hide it in at least, which is good.
Yeah, that bag is cool.
I was like, I want a bag like that. I can put whatever the heck I want into it and everybody will look in it and it looks like it's empty. Like I totally want one of those bags. Think of how as mothers, how handy that could come in with your kids. You could easily hide stuff from them.
Oh, all the cookies.
Yeah.
I was like, imagine all the books you can carry in one of those.
Oh yeah. It's like a Mary Poppins bag, but again, better because you can store all the stuff, but you can hide it too. And like nobody will see it. So it's even better.
Yep.
I think all moms need one of those bags.
I definitely do.
Oh, and let's not forget too, like to make this Starstroke net, she has to do it. She has to weave it on the spinning wheel of that evil lady. So when we meet Zarena in Takan's palace, I actually, for a little while, and I'm interested to see what you two thought of this, for a little while, I actually had this thought like, maybe it's like maybe Zarena is actually Raikama. Like this was before we find out that she's good, right? So I had this thought, like, I wonder if it's actually her in disguise, kind of like a Snow White type thing where the evil queen disguises herself as the old lady and Snow White doesn't know that it's her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did either of you think that at all?
I never got good vibes from her. I'm like, I don't trust you. I don't like you.
She was definitely up to something.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was Raikama at any point. I don't know, because I just assumed that Raikama was still at the palace. And like,
which makes sense, of course, which is why like I went back and forth on it with myself, but I was like, I don't know. She's just bad. Like something is wrong.
Well, Zarena gives like bad vibes, but she gives different bad vibes than the queen did.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Queen felt like more scheming and I'm up to something. Raikama was more like not good. Like every time she was in there and I'm like, zero trust. Well, I'm like, there's something about you. I can't tell what I don't like. And I want to watch you, which is hard to watch in the book because you're following someone else's story. You only get to see glimpses of her. But every time she was in, it was like, there's a red blaring message about you. And I don't know what it is, but something about you is not quite what I don't know. No trust.
Especially that scene where they're all Shiori and the queen and Megari and Zarena are all like eating together. And then Serena's like, I need to go to pray in the chapel. And you're like, I don't think so. And then she comes back and it's really quick, and Shiori's like, that was pretty fast for a stop in the chapel. I don't think that that's actually what you did. Does she really seem like a devoted? But the funny thing is that we find out she is a priestess. Yeah. In a way, she's just a magical evil priestess. So, okay. I was thinking about this though. Now here's the thing. I get it in one aspect, like, cause she's, she has magic. She's a priestess. She doesn't want the demons from the holy mountains to be released, which Shiori's magic can do. I mean, that makes total sense, right? She just went about things the wrong way, like instead of being like, hey, Shiori, we need to have a chat. Okay. You have this magic power in you that could release these demons from the mountain. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay. Instead of that, she like hatches this whole plan with Lord Yuji, and they put like poison in the sash and he gives it to Shiori. And thankfully it goes into the water and then Raikama takes it away. And she comes up with this whole plot of like, I have to kill you instead of like, hey, your magic can do this, but I'm sure we could prevent it. Like, I don't know, but that's what makes her the evil one.
I feel like it's far more fun to be evil and try to kill people than it is to be like, hey, can we have a sit down chat about your magic?
Well, of course it is. There'd be no fun in the book if that was that easy. So she's got the right idea. She just goes about it in the wrong way. Can
I just say, I appreciate that there's more than one villain in this book.
Yes.
And they're like all different levels of bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they're different kinds of bad. To me, it felt like it gave the story more dimension because there's more that she has to overcome and get through. But it was also really fun to see multiple villains.
No, I agree completely. And then we find out that somebody who we thought was a villain is actually not really a villain.
That was the best twist ever. Like when that
fantastic twist.
I was like, all right, this is not what I expected to happen, and I am here for it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then I cried through that entire chapter at the end where Raikama is telling Shiori all of this stuff and all of the memories that Shiori thought. This was one of the most beautiful things that I loved that she did here with this book. In this one section, right, these like 10 pages is the best, most beautiful story because Raikama is telling her how much she loves Shiori and how she did all of this to protect her because of her magic, because she knew what was going on. She knew what Zarena and Lord Yuji were up to. But then then she tells her that she wanted her to be able to remember her mother and have these memories of her mother. So all the things that that she and Shiori did together, like singing the song together and all these, like she made Shiori think that it was her mom that she had done with because she wanted her to have these fond memories of her mother. And I was like, that is the sweetest thing ever. She's so selfless and wonderful. And because then, and that whole last scene just killed me. Like I was just like in tears, that whole scene when they're talking about it.
Oh, that twist was such a punch in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know I was supposed to like you, and now I like you and you're dead.
I know.
Quite cruel. It was like, oh, I okay, I guess that's fine. Well,
like finding a new favorite character and then them being killed off a chapter later. Like, what? What gave you the right?
Yep, exactly. You gave us this character. We thought she was really mean. And now we find out, oh, she's actually like the most wonderful woman in the world ever. And now she's dead. Thanks a lot. But at least we get these like beautiful sentiments from her too. Like in this section, she says to Shiori, "You are my daughter, not of my blood, but of my heart." And I was like, that's like the best line ever. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. And it was sad, and Shiori's crying, and her Raikima's crying. And then she tells her the story about Vanna, her sister, who her sister was born with the dragon pearl in her heart, which they considered like a curse because it attracted the demons, even though it attracted the princes and kings. And then her sister died, and the pearl buried itself in Raikama to keep it from breaking. And then it gave her Vanna's face. How crazy is that? Mm-hmm. I was like, what? Like again, Lunar Chronicles vibes. Changing of the face of her sister's face. Elizabeth Lim, are you a fan of Marissa Meyer?
I sure hope so.
Everybody probably is a fan of Marissa Meyer. Let's be honest. Those books are quite fabulous.
They are. Yeah, I think that section was my favorite section of the book. Like it's the saddest part to me, but it was also my favorite part just because of, again, how beautifully it was written. Like the words that she gives to Raikama / Channery and Shiori as they speak to each other. Like it's so perfect. And then Shiori's like, "Don't go, please don't go." And then she dies. Raikama dies. And we all cry.
I'm like, did I cry? I'm not sure. I might have. It takes a lot for me to cry in a book. I don't remember. I'm like, was that a scene? I remember being really sad and being disappointed. I'm like, well, this was a wonderful character that was a villain for all of the book and now is a good guy. And now they're dead. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't cry, but I was definitely like, oh, what?
All right. I want to talk about Takan and Shiori because I absolutely loved
that entire part of the book.
Their relationship is like my favorite. I love this because, and this is why I hope that I'm going to also try and ignore any love triangle things that if they happen in book 2, because this is just one of those relationships. Like I loved when we find out when he tells Shiori that they actually met when she was younger. Mm-hmm. And she had no idea who he was. And they met, and then he wrote her all the letters, and she never even read the letters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I was like, oh, Shiori, but I can't blame her because, I mean, she's betrothed to this guy. She's like, I don't want to marry some dude I don't even know and move far, far away from my whole family. So I'm not going to read his letters. I mean, I get it, but when he talks about it later and he's like so super sweet about it, and he's like, I just wanted to get to know you, Shiori. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she feels all the guilt, which she totally should.
Yes. I felt so bad for Takan. I'm like, he's so sweet. He was writing all these letters. He just wanted to get to know her. And she was being such a brat.
Mm-hmm.
I can Hope feels guilty about that. Like maybe she had that revelation of, oh, wow, was I a stinker? I am so sorry. Like I really hope that character growth is somewhere embedded in there because I don't think it kind of showed through the book, but I'm like, girl, you better feel guilty about treating this boy like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I love what he says to her. So he's telling her, he finds her again. And like after the curse is broken and she's able to talk and she's talking to him and she's, saying how she needs to do all this stuff. And she's like, don't you have questions for me? Like why I had a bowl on my head and why I couldn't speak? Great questions, right? But all he says is he's like, well, what is there to know? All that matters is that you're alive. I thought I'd lost you. And I'm like, and I love it because the next sentence is the Shiori's response, which is, I melted to hear his voice so achingly tender. I hadn't thought I'd ever be capable of melting, not before this moment. And I just love that because it's such like, that was my reaction too. Like I melted,
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's so good. And then he tells her, I would not have you be alone and that he's not going to leave her. And that's what he said to her at the winter festival too. I would not have you be alone, Lena, not in your joys or your sorrows. I would wish your strand knotted to mine always. Done. And can I just tell you, he falls in love with her when she has a bowl on her head.
It's true love.
Like, if that's not true love, I don't know what is.
Reasons there cannot be a love triangle because the dragon did not fall in love with her when she had the bowl on her head. That's why.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. He knew her beforehand. But this is like, I just also love the message behind that too, of like, it really truly, even though people say this all the time and it's like super cliche, right? It really is really not about your appearance. It's about who you are as a person and how you connect with somebody else and, all of those things. And that's who he fell in love with, was who she really was, not how she looked and not knowing that she was the princess, but her personality and who she was. And
Man, I'll say, Abby, this makes me think about our last year's Valentine's Day episode. I'm like, maybe they might be one of my favorite couples. Like going back and I'm like, ooh, I'm like the more Leah talks about like her analysis of them, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, oh no, I might need to reevaluate my favorite couples. They might have to come into it.
We might have to redo that list next year.
I think I need a few more years. I need at least 100 more books in between the last time we did that episode. Just so I need to, just gotta find some more couples I enjoy. This would be a couple I would put into my list, I think.
Okay, that's fair. We'll wait a couple years. Okay, we'll revisit that list.
All right.
I love the moment when Shiori finds out that Takan knows who she is, like that he figured out that she was Shiori, because he asked her, if she wants to hear his story. And he says, it's about a princess with 6 brothers, one who never read her letters from the simple, unworthy boy who only wished to know her. And she's like, oh gods, I whispered, emotions clotted in my throat, an unwieldy mix of rapture and embarrassment. I wanted to both hug him and hide from him at once. All I could do was bury my face in my hands. I never called you that, did I? Poor thing. Like, oh man.
What you just read was so YA. If there was ever a YA, oh my God, I'm in love with this guy. Like paragraph, you nailed it on the head right there. Hiding your face, dying embarrassment, full of love. Like that is high school. Not that they're in high school because they're on a grand adventure, but those are straight high school feelings.
Yep. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. And I loved how he talks about, because even though it was a long time ago when they first met at the summer festival when they were younger, and he said that he remembered, he like had suspicions about Lena being Shiori when he first met her, because when she was cooking, she was tapping her feet like she was listening to music. And he said that that's something that he remembered seeing Princess Shiori do in the summer festival when she was eating something that she loved. and then he said that there were little things like the way that she would hide food in her sleeves, or how she gets a dimple in her left cheek when she smiles. And it's just like all the little things that he noticed about her. Like that's what I love. Like that's what really makes a relationship great, is all those like amazing little things that you know about each other and you love about each other. And she's like, you noticed all of that?
That's why you should have read his letters, lady.
Well, and I love that she does go back and read them after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to go back and read these letters now. I'm so sorry for everything I did. But he's like, I hope you don't fall asleep reading them now. Oh man. And then she's all like, my magic is really dangerous. Why are you going to be around me? And he's like, but you're not dangerous. And I'm like, dude, does he have all the right words to say all the time?
He's a YA male lead. Of course he does.
Of course he does. Yep, exactly. All right. So then we have the end. Channery / Raikama is dead. She's sacrificed herself. Okay. The demons are about to be let out of the mountain. We have the wolf, who is Lord Yugi, right? Who is around. And then Shiori promised Raikama that she's going to return her dragon pearl to its rightful owner, who is not the Dragon King. So then the last thing we see is she goes into the water with Sirayu, and Takan is there, and he's like, I'll wait for you, because of course. And so, yeah. So what is going to happen in book 2? I'm hoping, I kind of feel like book 2 is going to be like a quest to return the pearl to its rightful owner, and also taking care of the demons in the mountain and Lord Yugi, the wolf. But then I'm hoping also that we get to see the Dragon Kingdom underwater, because I really want to know what that looks like.
I want some Dragon Court politics.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was thinking, well, hoping there's a grand adventure. Hoping, I don't know what tale we're going to follow next. And I wish I knew that to give us a hint of what could happen. But we know there's dragons, and we know she has to go on basically an adventure to restore something. And I'm hoping she's going to really grow in her magic and make it, because she got that curse broken. So now she can use her magic.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, let's see the magic system. Let's see this happen. Let's see some really awesome world building as well.
I feel the need now to go and Google Japanese folk tales and fairy tales, because she used the one with the girl with the bowl on her head. There's got to be more coming for the next book, I'm sure. So I kind of want to like Google and see what I can find out, and then be like, which one sounds like this is where we ended the book. So maybe these will be incorporated into book 2.
I would like to note, since neither of you read the Blood of the Stars duology, I think the lore is connected.
Oh, really?
And it's the Demon Mountain that kind of cinched it for me. I could be completely wrong, but I think the Demon Mountain is connected to the same lore as the Blood of the Stars duology.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
And I can't say anything because you haven't read that duology. So I don't want to spoil things.
Shoot. Okay, well, I'm just gonna do my own little Demon Mountain Japanese folktale search on Google, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Demon Mountains, and it's like, well, the Suicide Mountain in Japan. Not that one. Dang it.
Other ones. What else?
Yeah,
is
I
there?
think I think the lore is all connected in these books. And so I'm just like, oh, I wonder how this is going to play out in the second book. I'm really curious.
Well, the second book is titled The Dragon's Promise.
Wait, we have a title already? When did that happen?
A couple months ago.
Has revealed the final cover is to be revealed, but Goodreads says the official title is The Dragon's Promise.
Ooh, all right. That sounds good. I want to know about who the dragon is, who is the owner of the pearl.
Yeah, we have to find that out. Like, that's a big thing we got to know about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, you have to wonder what dragon made a promise. Was it the Dragon King? Is it Seiryu? Is it a dragon we haven't met? Like,
my gut is saying it's going to be a dragon we haven't met yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Oh, guys, there's a blurb out.
Uh-oh.
Read it.
Yep, come on.
And the New York Times bestselling author Six Crimson Cranes comes a thrilling new adventure, a journey to the kingdom of dragons, a star-crossed love, and a cursed pearl, with the power to mend the world or break it. Fans of Shadow and Bone will devour this soaring fantasy. Of course, let's throw Shadow, Bone, and everything. Really. Princess Shiori made a deathbed promise to return the dragon's pearl to its rightful owner, but keeping that promise is more dangerous than she ever imagined. She must journey to the kingdom of dragons, navigate, political intrigue among humans and dragons alike. There it is, Abby.
Yes.
Fend thieves who covet the pearl for themselves and will go to any lengths to get it, all while cultivating the appearance of a perfect princess to dissuade those who would see her burned at the stake for the magic that runs through her blood. There comes my magic lore. Hopefully that's going to be real thick.
Ooh.
The pearl itself is no ordinary cargo. It thrums with malevolent power, jumping to Shiori's aid 1 minute, betraying her the next, threatening to shatter her family and sever the thread of fate that binds her to her true love. There's true love right there. We're good.
Okay.
It will take every ounce of strength Shiori can muster to defend the life and the love she's fought so hard to win.
Now, here's the thing, though. It does say her true love, but
who is it?
what if? Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping it's Tikan, but what if
It's Tikan. If it's not, I will riot.
It has to be. It has to be. It cannot be the dragon. It cannot be the dragon.
Like, the dragon's cool and all, and he had his chance, but they didn't. Yeah.
No, it's got to be Tikan. Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm so excited.
It just, you know what it is? They can't say his name in the blurb in case people haven't read the first one, because at the beginning of the book, she runs away. So
yeah, that's true.
It would be a complete spoiler if they said his name.
All right. Guys, expected push date, August 30th, 2022.
Okay. I'm writing that down. I'm going to pre-order that sucker as soon as I can.
Me too.
And now I'm going to be looking everywhere and like totally stalking Elizabeth Lim's Instagram. Actually, you know, it was really funny. I was reading her bio at the back of the book, and it says she now lives in New York City with her husband and 2 daughters. And I was like, I'm going to New York City next weekend. What if I like randomly spot Elizabeth Lim? And then I'm like, well, you already met her. But I'm like, that was before I read the book.
Now, guys, I got some more for you. Posted on her Instagram on November 4th. The original title was The Dragon's Pearl, but they changed it because there are reasons. Things change between the pearl to the promise. And this is a duology, but there may be 1 or more books planned for the same universe, so she may expand the lore of the universe as well.
Ooh, this is going to be really good.
Oh, P.S.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. I love this book. I am now even more, thanks to Mo, looking forward to book 2. And I can't, you guys, I wish you guys could see the video of this, because Abby right now is sitting like with her face in her hands and this just like blissful look on her face, like a happy child. Like, I'm so happy now.
You don't understand. Court politics are one of my favorite elements in a book, and dragons are one of my favorite elements in a book. We're going to have court politics and dragons.
Yay. It's both of your worlds that are going to be put together there. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so excited.
Okay, good. Maybe after book 2 comes out, we'll have to do an episode about book 2.
Yes.
To follow up. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you ladies both so much for being here. And as I said earlier, I'm going to put links to Abby and Mo's podcast, the Book Life podcast. I will put that in the show notes for today, as well as where you can follow them and all that good stuff. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we will chat again soon. Today's episode featured the book Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. Be sure to follow YA Book Chat on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you subscribe so you get your episodes as soon as they are available. YA Book Chat was created by, is hosted and edited by me, Leah Stuhler.